Oh, I hope not. Okay, you're welcome.
We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council work session to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Lauer,
Here.
Alderman Sage, Alderman Millawamway,
Here.
Alderman Burgess,
Here.
Alderman Painter,
Here.
Alderman Schmidt,
Here.
Alderman Black, Alderman Howman,
Here.
Alderman Fruin,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Are there any public comment on the work session for the ADA transition? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move to the ADA transition. Alex McElroy, come on down. I believe you have some wonderful words of wisdom for us, Alex. Good
I
evening.
do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to start by giving just a little bit of background about how we got to where we are today. The American with Disabilities Act was passed by Congress in 1990. It is a wide-ranging civil rights law that prohibits discrimination based on disability. On July of 26, 1992, local governments were then required to develop a compliance plan. And on July 27, 1992, the city of Bloomington passed their compliance plan. And if you think that stands out, July 26, 1992 is actually on a Sunday. So within the spirit of the law, we adopted it the very next day. ADA has 5 titles. The city of Bloomington falls within the first 3 titles, being equal employment, local government, and public accommodations. And as a final note, the enforcement agency is the Department of Justice. So here's a history of the timeline and the evolution of the ADA. Again, it was passed in 1990, became effective in 1992. There were some Supreme Court rulings which changed the manner in which it was implemented. In 2008, they passed the Amendments Act, which greatly changed the definition of disability, really broadening the scope of what's considered a disability. And then in 2010, there were some design standard updates, and now in 2015, we're celebrating 25 years of having ADA policies on the record. So more to date, the city manager has tasked all of our city departments with undergoing a self-evaluation. And some accomplishments have been made to date, and I wanted to go over some of those, and then we have a lot more work yet to do. So some accomplishments to date, they're most noticeable on the city's website. Every web page now has a footer which has an accessibility portal which will take you to all this information detailed here. We changed our notice to include Department of Justice recommended language. We've clearly identified our ADA compliance coordinator, being Ernestine Jackson. We've added a complaint form that can be downloaded by citizens. We've posted our grievance procedures. We also found our 1992 Plan of Compliance. It was 2 large volumes of documents. We've now digitized those, and they're available to the public on our website. And we've created this document that we're calling the 2015 Draft ADA Transition Plan, which is really an outline of our efforts going forward. So what does the Department of Justice require? They have 5 general requirements. Those are listed there. Every one of those general requirements were satisfied in the previous slide. So everything on our website now falls under those 5 general requirements of the ADA. They also have 13 points of program access, and they've developed this Title II Technical Assistance Manual to help local governments evaluate whether they're compliant or not. So we're using this self-evaluation manual to go through each one of these 13 points that the Department of Justice has recommended, evaluating our programs and our services. So here's those 13 points. Again, right now we're working with all of our departments to perform these self-evaluations. We're also doing this at a time when staff is working on things like the user fee studies and our budget deadlines. So we're not moving at record-breaking speeds, but we have prioritized this, and we are going through a systematic process of making sure that we remain compliant. So with the next steps, what are we going to do once we complete these self-evaluations? We are going to go then solicit input. We'd like input from the council. We'd like input from citizens and interested organizations. Once we get that input, we'd like to incorporate any of that into the document and then have it formally recognized by council and adopted. But I did want to point out, there have been significant other strides that didn't make the slide that we have recently accomplished. One being our sidewalk master plan that the council recently approved. That is a major undertaking, a major component and requirement through the Department of Justice that you have those schedules in place. Another one is our facilities assessment. That's also a significant undertaking. That was part of why the 1992 compliance plan was so voluminous, but we have recently adopted our facilities assessment, which was another voluminous document as well. But we've identified any ADA issues within those assessments. So some major accomplishments, all of that will be incorporated into what's included in this 2015 update.
If I can, Mayor, I just want to add some final comments, and that is, you can see this entire program as a federal mandate. Yes, it's federal law, but the Department of Justice doesn't take lightly to cities, states who ignore the ADA, doesn't keep up to date, and we have had some local assistance. Some of you know Twyla and George Braden, and as the mayor, and they've helped to remind us that, lack of funding, lack of focus is no excuse. And I think this is a real positive, that the progress that has been made, because for many years, maybe there just wasn't that focus, that attention being given, and the competent personnel. It's just as I've seen some of the public works type of standards. Boy, they just keep changing almost every 3 or 4 years. But you have to have people who can stay on top of this, and granted, even though I think even the ADA coordinator, and who is that person? Sometimes people don't know. And again, that's Ernestine Jackson, but she's assisted by Tom Daveriner, Jim Karch, many other people in the city, depending upon what the issue is. So a lot of progress has been made here. I think it's also important to point out this is kind of part of our ongoing priority-based budgeting, because ADA compliance is a critical service that has to be funded. We have to have the personnel, and I think this is, again, the progress being made to make sure that it is a program, a service that continually gets the funding, the resources, the personnel or the contract personnel to help ensure that we are staying in compliance, and make sure that we don't have a Department of Justice coming down on us like recently they have. I think it was Champaign County, going after them with some pretty hefty fines for lack of compliance and staying on task with this. So appreciate all that Alex has done for in helping get us back on where we needed to be, and we're going to continue to work on this, and even ask the Bradens to continue to assist us as some citizen volunteers. So Mayor, turn it back to you.
Questions, comments?
Just a little
Alderman Locke?
comment, and thank you very much, very informative. And it is an unfunded type issue that we've got to face, I realize. I'm just wondering how in tune we are to the actual community, those that are affected, and are we focusing on those neighborhoods and those issues that they're facing first, as part of what we're trying to do as we move along. I've got some of those issues in my own neighborhood. We're replacing sidewalks with, ADA compliance, and maybe we really don't need them necessarily right there, but we have to do it because it's a mandated investment that we have to make when we repair that street. So understand that as well. But are we, sort of like I talked with Jim several weeks ago when we were talking about infrastructure and sidewalks for the kids. Are we looking at, our actual community needs and those that need it right now? Is that part of the conversation, or is it weighted enough? I'm just asking. So,
Okay.
thanks.
And I think we can always do better. I know I've heard a lot of good positives. Let's take those who have difficulty getting from point A to B in a wheelchair. And our staff has been very proactive. Once they're aware of those, they go to great lengths to see that those improvements are made. We're also making sure that we're just in compliance with federal law too, because it's like these, when we get into major overlays, we have no choice. If those sidewalk where they intersect the intersection are not in compliance, we're mandated to bring them into compliance. So, but I will say this, I've seen in some cities where there's even been greater outreach in trying to find out in each neighborhood where are there additional needs from the standpoint of public infrastructure. And I think that's where we need to even do more to make sure we're aware of those and we get those on our priority lists for improvement, so.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Alderwoman Schmidt.
Just a couple of quick comments and questions. Thank you very much for this. David, thank you for mentioning the Bradens. Are they aware of the work that has been done now to date?
We have been in contact with them.
Okay,
I
thank
even
you.
invited them to attend tonight.
Yeah, and I want to underscore what Kevin's saying there in terms of it, to the extent that we can prioritize. I know Jim Karch and his staff have been great with Pastor Dale Miller, who is, he's out and about in his wheelchair all the time, and he's very proactive. And I think both the Millers and the Bradens can probably help us do some prioritizing. It makes a lot of sense. So thank you very much for this, Alex.
Thank you. Other questions? Comments? Seeing none? Okay. Thank you again, Alex. We very much appreciate it. You're calling attention to a critical issue that faces us and is continuing to face us. So at this point, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Howman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, and we'll see you in about 11 minutes.